Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 16 of the Just Tone In podcast with your host, Justin Mazzola, and,
Adam Honer. I don't know if I got cut out.
well,
I
say your
think
name
we're good.
again for the people in the
Episode
back.
16. I
Episode
don't even know.
16.
That's
I
crazy.
believe I'm right. Could be wrong. It could be 15 at this point, but
At this point, I don't even know.
um, for those of you still watching, we love you. We appreciate you. For those of you who don't, yeah, I guess you won't be hearing this, but please come back. We could use some listeners and just tell us what you like, what you don't like, and yeah. But
But we're hoping you like this one because I hope this is
it's a
probably one
big
of our
episode.
more interesting ones for sure. I'll call it maybe a special
Yeah,
because
trade deadline special.
because we usually have our traditional format, but moving away from the NFL season from fantasy football and kind of doing more traditional podcast style, which I think will be great. But yeah, NBA trade deadline, crazy stuff. Super Bowl's coming up as well, so a lot of things happening in the sports world. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, it was a crazy week in the NBA. I was mentioning to Adam that this week leading up to the Super Bowl, they had media week for the NFL, and I didn't see a clip. I didn't hear anything. As a Niners fan, maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but I feel like the NBA trade deadline, starting off with Luka for Anthony Davis, really took hold of like the media attention this week. And I feel like I don't watch a lot of sports TV shows anymore, the talk shows, because they all happen during work.
Yeah,
But a lot of it was centered around the trade deadline. Shams was on every show talking about rumors and not not a whole lot of Super Bowl talk from at least from the media that I saw. But yeah, Luka for Anthony Davis, first big trade made last Saturday.
that's
There were and
huge.
then post that trade, there were 20 other trades made in this last week. But Luka for AD is the big storyline. But the Lakers also get Maxi Kleber and Markieff Morris, probably just salary fill-ins considering Maxi's out for the year with a foot fracture. And Dallas gets Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick. The Jazz were also a part of this trade, getting Jalen Hood-Schifino and 2 second-round picks. I think just to help facilitate the trade, so they got 2 second-round picks for their troubles. But Luka AD, the big storyline, and only one first-round pick involved in this trade.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts?
I mean, as a Lakers fan myself, obviously you got the jersey repping. I mean, I'm psyched. I'm psyched. This is huge because I mean, Luka Doncic is a generational player. He can change your franchise, and just by the way he plays, it's just pretty special. He's 25 years old. Yeah, he's already made All NBA first team 3 times. Um, so I mean, I'm pretty psyched for it.
I mean,
It's I'm just yeah. It's I think a big question mark was with the post LeBron era, because obviously you have to think about that. LeBron's not going to play forever, unfortunately. I mean, I've kind of came around to LeBron recently because you
he's
can't you
very
can't deny
good,
it
bro. You
anymore.
can't hate on him.
You can't deny it anymore. He's just too good. I was actually watching a little bit of the Lakers Warriors game this week, and he had his season high. So he's playing his best basketball. But regardless, when my point was when LeBron's gone, what do? You have Anthony Davis, but I just didn't really know how to really feel about that because yes, he is a really good NBA player. He's an All NBA level player. He's an NBA All Star. And I think a lot of people hating on the trade don't really give him that credit. But I mean, as like a franchise point, I don't know with his injuries and everything, but I mean, getting Luka, I mean, that just gives you your answer. What's next? We know where the guard is changing. So
Yeah, I think Dallas is getting a lot of hate for this trade because they gave up a 25-year-old Luka Doncic who brought them to the NBA Finals last year, single-handedly almost. I mean, he obviously got help from his teammates, but the man was like basically averaging a triple-double.
yeah,
Um, and you know, like you said, I think he's been an All NBA 5 times, first time All NBA 3 times. To your point, this is the first time in history that an All NBA player got traded for each other. So like Anthony Davis was All NBA last year, and so was Luka, and they got
Hmm.
traded for each other. Um, but yeah, Anthony Davis is a great player, and as long as getting Max Christie to Dallas, like they got two solid players, both
Hmm.
defensive mind players as well as have offensive capabilities. I like obviously the short term aspect of the Dallas trade, but trading away your 25-year-old Luka
Hmm.
is crazy, and
Yeah.
nobody saw this coming, which
Yeah,
is
it seemed like the Mavericks had this, the root of the trade really came from the Mavericks, might having some concerns about Luca and his future. Especially with like they were saying like his conditioning and his weight gain, and they just didn't know if he was gonna be able to do it. But in my opinion, I don't care if Luca's 300 pounds. You better keep him. It doesn't matter how much he weighs. He's still gonna be Luka Doncic, and he's gonna be amazing. And it didn't really make too much sense for the if obviously I'm not in the Mavericks front office, so I don't know what they're thinking. But like from the outside perspective, you don't really know. It's kind of a head scratcher, honestly. And the fact they only got, yes, you got Anthony Davis and a young player Max Christie, but you got one pick. You got one pick. How can you not get more than one pick for your franchise All NBA superstar?
yeah. And you see trades around the league, post after this one, and first round picks were flying around, and we'll get into that next. But I mean, only one first round pick. They won, helped the Lakers, um, by only allowing the Lakers to give a one first round pick because after trading Anthony Davis, after trading Max Christie, our defense in general is bound to take a hit, and especially from the big man position. We gave up our Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis all season long has been asking for another center. So obviously we're lacking bigs. Like our only other one really is Jackson Hayes. We have Christian Koloko on the bench,
Christian
two-way
Wood.
player, but we have Christian Wood as well, but he's been injured as you know.
Mhm.
Um, so we have some size, but they're not like Jackson Hayes vertical threat, which you know, but I feel like he has a lot of flaws in his game, or he can be. He can be. He's not really defensive minded. He gets some blocks, but we're lacking on the interior.
He's not a
And
starting center in the NBA, unfortunately. I think he's a very solid backup, but he's not, and especially where the Lakers want to go, he's not a starter. So, like you're about to say, the Lakers did something about it. So,
yeah, and so since they only had to give up one first round pick, they still had another first round pick to be traded because they only had two. They have some first round pick swaps, but that doesn't really account for like a star or whatever. But they were able to go out and trade with the Charlotte Hornets for a 23-year-old center in Mark Williams. And in that trade, they gave up Dalton Connect, which I'm a little sad about. I really liked him and his trajectory, as well as Cam Reddish, who I don't really care. Um, their 2031 first round pick, as well as a pick swap. So, technically two first round picks in that trade versus only one
yeah.
in the Luka trade.
But Connect's also not Anthony Davis.
No,
And, yeah. But Mark Williams isn't Lucas, so it goes the same way. But, I mean, I think the Mark Williams pickup is great. Um, he's only 23 years old. And, I mean, I haven't watched too much of him because he's been playing in Charlotte, which is, a smaller market team. So being able to watch his highlights, I mean, I think the biggest thing is Luke is going to help him play so well. Luka can, like, I mean, if you saw last year the way that he made Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively look on that Mavericks team, like Mark Williams is going to really thrive with Luka, because he's 7'1", he's athletic, he's long, he's got good finishing skills around the rim. Um, he's good defensively as well. I don't know how strong he is, going up against bigger centers, but I think he's a really good young piece, and that's another great piece to build this young core. Because post LeBron, you got Luka, you got Mark Williams, and then don't even forget about Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves has been having a breakout season. He's averaging 18 and a half points a game, which I mean is great. I think a lot of people, I hate to see Connect go. Because first round pick, young player, playing really well. A lot of development. I think I was talking to somebody about this. I think I see like a Gordon Hayward comparison when he was playing for the Jazz. And Luka, a guy that, or in Dalton Connect, that can shoot the ball but also like attack the rim very well. So I mean, definitely tough to see him go, but I think we got really good value out of him, and we were able to fill a hole that we really need with a really good young piece.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was sad at first, and I'm still. I mean, obviously Dalton's not like our all-star. He's not he's not the reason why we would win an NBA championship.
Mm-hmm.
But I really liked watching him play. His 3-point. I thought he had a complete game. Honestly,
Yeah.
he could shoot the three. He had a mid range, and when he drove, he would, he'd dunk. Like
Yeah.
he'd
Like
go
that
he'd
with
go up with aggression
intention.
and not just
Yeah.
like trying to lay it up around the block, which oftentimes can work, but then it leaves you susceptible to that block. He was challenging shot blockers or challenging the defense, just going
Mm-hmm.
full steam ahead and going up to the rim. A 6'6" shooting guard. That's a pretty solid size for a shooting guard in the NBA, especially with the talent that he had. But like you said, positional need for a center and
Mm-hmm.
getting a 23-year-old. I think what's funny is I think Mark Williams he's been in the NBA. This is his third season in the NBA. Yet I think he's like a few months younger than Dalton Connect. Because I think Dalton Connect is also 23, but maybe turns
Yeah.
24 sooner.
Yeah.
So younger, and you're right. Mark Williams, lob threat, and that's what Luka has thrived with his entire career. And
Yeah.
so
I think it's definitely going to be a big step up for him because he's going to go from playing in Charlotte, which is, definitely one of the smaller market teams, to like one of the most popular teams in the NBA. So the pressure is going to get higher, but I think he's got a good supporting role of players, or, he's the supporting role, but you know what I mean? Like,
right,
he's going to have good teammates to help him navigate, this
put him in
new.
a position to do well.
Right. Exactly. So,
He, I think he was averaging. I think he's only played in like half the games this season. So injuries have been a big part of his short career thus far. I think last year he only played in 19 games or something, like
mhm.
very small amount. But this season, when playing, he's been averaging I think 15 and 9, and he's only
Mhm.
been playing 25 minutes a game. I think he starts for the Hornets, but just because like maybe they have other players, they're young, they're not
I mean,
really winning.
25 still starter minutes, I believe.
I mean, you're
Like,
playing a little over half the game, but and maybe that'll be the case in LA too. Like he'll play around the same if he's splitting time with Hayes.
mhm.
But still, if you were to put it on like they have some metric to put on like a full starting basis or whatever. If you take like an average center, maybe average starter, if you take that and like you project his stats for the Hornets, where there's more scoring opportunity,
Yeah.
it would be 23 points a game and 14 rebounds. Obviously, he's not going to get. He may get the rebounds in LA, but I don't expect him to average 23 points. But
Which we don't
still,
need him to. We don't need him
we don't
to.
need him to.
If
We need
you
him to get lobs and blocks.
if you
Lobs
get
and blocks.
60 a night, or 50 to 60 a night from LeBron and Luka, you don't need to be averaging 20 points. Like,
Yeah.
you'll probably see Reeves's averages go a little bit, go down a little bit if LeBron and Luka are both playing consistently. But I mean, you don't need that. We just need all the pieces. And I think with I think they got a good squad, because I think Dorian Finney-Smith's that fifth starter. I think a lot of people are talking either Dorian Finney-Smith or Rui Hashimura. They're pretty interchangeable, but I'll say Dorian Finney-Smith just because I think he fits better with the starting lineup. I think that starting five is great. I think that starting five is, you can make a run. you can make a run with LeBron, and even when LeBron's done, you can throw Rui right in there, and you got a good young team. So I'm looking forward to the future of the Lakers because they definitely figured out, they answered a ton of questions in this, short trade deadline period. It's great to see. Good job by Rob Pelinka.
Definitely. They won't have many trade assets or draft assets going into the future, but hopefully we're able to sign Luka to an extension this summer, keep him around, keep Mark, and keep Austin Reeves, and just keep this thing going. And hope free agents want to come play with us, and hopefully the Lakers are fun.
Oh, for sure. I think some veteran guards will end up coming to the team at some point because Gabe Vincent and Shake Milton aren't. They're decent, but if you want a complete team, I think you can get you can upgrade there. I think Jackson Hayes is decent as a backup center. I think he's very athletic as well. I think he's just as athletic as Mark Williams, but just not as skilled. But I think again, with Luka, I think that's really Luka's going to really bring the best out of him. So I think we got some really really good pieces. Hopefully, we can get some guards in the offseason, and I hope LeBron wants to stay because I think they got a chance. They got a chance to make a run, even if it's not this year. I think they got another chance next year with the full season of Luka.
Yeah, I think this trade definitely makes LeBron stay maybe a year or two more. But we'll see. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. I'm excited, though. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And speaking about first-round picks, we mentioned that Dallas only got one first-round pick for Luka Doncic, 25-year-old All-NBA player who historically is third most in the entire history of the NBA in points per game scoring average at around, I think, 28, 29 points per game. Only one first-round pick. The next trade we're going to talk about is De'Aaron Fox got traded to the San Antonio Spurs, and the Kings got Zach LaVine from the Bulls. So in total, the Spurs got De'Aaron. And for De'Aaron, the Kings got Zach LaVine, 3 first-round picks.
I think they got 2 first-round picks.
They got 3.
Oh, I thought it was 2 first, 2 second.
I saw 3 first, 3 second.
Really? Really?
So six picks.
Are you sure about that?
And then the Bulls. That's what I saw him per my sources, but you can fact check me. And the Bulls got Trey Jones from the Spurs, Zach Collins from the Spurs, and Kevin Huerter from the Kings. And they also got their own 2025 first-round pick back from the Spurs.
You're right, bro. You're right. I stand corrected.
3 firsts, 3 seconds. And De'Aaron Fox, he's very good. He's 27, 2 years older than Luka, and he's no Luka Doncic.
But I do think...
But that's the trade.
I mean, De'Aaron Fox is a great pickup for the Spurs. I think he fits perfectly. I think De'Aaron Fox is one of the most underrated players in the league. Doesn't help that he plays for Sacramento. I think him and Sabonis don't get as much, league notice as they probably should. And I think De'Aaron Fox playing with Wemby, I think he's finally going to be able to get recognized as, the player that he is. But, yes, the Spurs gave up a decent amount of picks. I think it was 25, 27, and 31. Those are the years. But they didn't trade any of their young pieces. They still have Castle. They still have Vassell. They weren't going to trade Wemby, but obviously. They still got Sohan. They still got Keldon Johnson.
Yep.
Yeah, they still got all these young pieces with Fox. And they still have Chris Paul right now, which is, I don't think Chris Paul is going to be with the team next year when I think his contract is up this year. I think he only signed a 1 year. Because obviously that point guard role is going to go to De'Aaron. But I think De'Aaron is going to really help this Spurs team, and it's going to benefit. It's really going to help Luka take the pressure off Wemby a bit, even though I think Wemby can handle it. He's the face he's going to be the face of the league soon. And I think De'Aaron Fox is that perfect second guy to help the Spurs.
Yeah. And I think just, Chris Paul has been their starting point guard, and he's older, not as fast as he used to be. Still a great true point guard.
Yeah.
But De'Aaron comes in with speed, just like super speed, being able to push the ball, being able to do his own thing, and just more of a complete package. And he's coming in as their new point guard, and I agree. I think him and Wemby is a great duo, along with Stephon Castle is freaking. He's nice, dude. I didn't realize. Like, obviously, he was with UConn, and they won the national championship, and I think he was drafted like, I don't know, 3rd or 5th overall or something like that in this past year's draft. But he's very, very good. He is very good, and he's super athletic too. But yeah, like you said, they're keeping all their young guys in this trade. The people that they gave up: Trey Jones, Zach Collins, not necessarily cornerstones of their franchise. Trey Jones is young, Zach Collins is solid, but to get a player like De'Aaron that fits more in the lineup and gives you another scoring boost as well, it's definitely great for the Spurs. And what do you think about we got a lot of Kings fans. A lot of our listeners are Kings fans.
Yeah,
What do you think about them?
we are from Sacramento, so obviously
Zach
surrounded by a lot of
LaVine, 3
fans.
firsts and 3
I got a
seconds.
special place for the Kings. I always want the Kings to do well, just because they're the only Sacramento professional sports team. So, and I think
Oakland A's are coming until their stadium in Las Vegas is built.
Oh boy. Who knows that'll count? But I think first of all, I think Fox kind of did the Kings dirty a little bit, because when he requested it, when he wanted to get traded, he's like, yeah, I want to go to San Antonio. So it was like, it kind of just narrowed down like the potential trade options that the Kings could play with, because they probably, with some of the other teams, they couldn't be like, oh, you want De'Aaron? They're like, why would I give up that much if he's going to be a rental? Because if he's thinking about going to the Spurs, they're like, why would we trade for him? Is it going to be guaranteed he's even going to sign? So like, it kind of put teams in like a tough position. So the fact that they're able to get this kind of haul out of the Spurs for De'Aaron Fox is huge. It's huge. I think Zach LaVine's a solid player. He's not the same, he's not the NBA All-Star level that he used to be, I don't believe, but he's still a stud. And the one concern a little bit is DeMar DeRozan and LaVine play together in Chicago, and it didn't really go as well. So they're reconnecting that together, which hopefully they can use for their benefit. But looking in the past, it didn't really benefit them. But I mean, for the Kings, you got the best you possibly could out of De'Aaron Fox, because you needed to trade him. You needed to trade him because he didn't want to sign the extension. He's probably going to walk. You had to get something for him, and that's probably the best thing you could probably get for him. So, and I think that starting lineup for the Kings is still really solid. You replace Fox with LaVine, and you still have the same guys in the lineup. And I still think it's a lineup that can compete in the Western Conference, even though it's competitive. They can still compete.
Yeah, I think the Kings got a good return for De'Aaron Fox, especially considering De'Aaron was likely to leave following next year. I think when his contract is up. So getting Zach LaVine, getting 3 firsts, 3 seconds. I think it's a great return. Yeah. And I don't know if this is true, but I feel like the 3 firsts are actually not San Antonio's picks. They're from San Antonio.
Oh yeah.
But I think they were traded from another team.
Right.
So San Antonio not giving up their own picks is very good as well. They kind of control their own destiny instead of trying to rely on someone else. But yeah, I think it's a great return for the Kings. And like you said, with Zach LaVine, DeMar didn't really work out in Chicago. But I'd say the scarier thing was when, the rumors, you never know if they're true, but the rumors were, if the Kings trade De'Aaron, DeMar may request a trade. Okay, well, I came here to play with De'Aaron and Sabonis, and you're telling me now that De'Aaron wants out. Well, I'm at the tail end of my career. I don't want to stick around if I don't have the 2 players that I want to come play with.
And he wants to win. He's in the part of his career where he wants to win. And if they're trading pieces, then obviously, you want to try to win. Right. He doesn't care. It's not about anything else, for DeMar at this point.
Yeah. I just think it helps I think Zach LaVine and him are good friends from their time in Chicago. So it helps to bring in a familiar face rather than.
Oh, for sure.
someone else. But we'll see what happens with DeMar. I think this helps keep
Mm-hmm.
him around at least for another year to see how it works. But again, who knows? If they're not winning, they might not make the playoffs this year. The
No,
West is super competitive. He
no.
may look to go somewhere else.
And the rest of the Kings aren't slouches. Like I was talking, I was seeing something where like in the past, like I think it was like 2 weeks to like a month, like De'Aaron Fox was the fourth highest scoring player on the team. Like his
Really?
average is, yes, yeah, yeah. So like the rest of the team is still really good. I mean, Sabonis is Sabonis. DeMar DeRozan is going to do his thing, and I mean, Malik Monk has really exploded as a solid NBA starter. I think he's a guy that the Kings should need to look to extend. I think the Kings need to sign him to. I don't know what his contract is right now. I think they signed him to some. You know what? I think they actually did sign him to a longer deal, but it
Yeah.
was he took a little bit of a pay cut for De'Aaron, which is kind of tough because De'Aaron's not on the team anymore, and they're college teammates. So definitely we'll see how that storyline brews, but hopefully there's nothing too bad going on there. But I think the Kings still have a lot of great pieces around them, so I think it's just trying to figure out how to win with those pieces and see how Doug Christie does with that.
Yeah, the Kings have been playing a lot better, uh, following like the first half of the games that they have been playing, so like a quarter of the season. Then they went on a stretch where they went 8-2 with Doug Christie since he had started head coach, and they've been
Mhm.
playing well recently. We'll just see how everything shakes out. Like we
And I
said, the
also want to
West.
mention that that wasn't the only move that the Kings made.
Yeah,
They got some good bench pieces. They got Valanciunas and they got Jake LaRavia. I think Valanciunas first of all is huge because I think a big criticism with the Kings is they didn't really like. I think Sabonis isn't really a true center. I think he can play center, but I think he benefits a lot by playing the four as well. And I think that flexibility with bringing in a bigger guy like Valanciunas to play set decent center minutes because I don't think they really had that. I think like Alex Len, like Valanciunas is just a better Alex Len. So being able to be bringing in a player like that for the flexibility of Sabonis is like really great. And they're both from Lithuania, so they got the Lithuanian connection. And then they picked up Jake LaRavia, who's
he's
young
good.
sniper,
He's
and
good.
yeah, he's just they traded Kevin Herter in one of the trades to the Bulls. So I mean, you just got like a taller, younger, more potential shooter than LaRavia. So good moves by the Kings.
Definitely. I think the later Drake LaRavia, not a big name, but the Lakers play the Memphis Grizzlies like 3-4 times a year,
Mm-hmm.
and I swear Drake LaRavia, when he, especially last year when the Grizzlies didn't have John Morant for an extended period of time, um, Desmond Bain for an extended period of time, like Jake LaRavia, he was balling. He can shoot the three ball, and I think it's definitely a good pickup for the Kings, who you know it can't hurt to add 3-point shooting. It really
No.
can't.
If you take
Um,
that 8-man rotation and you include Keon Ellis to make that 8, that's a solid 8-man rotation right there. I think you can, especially in the playoffs, I think it's a solid rotation.
I think so. Uh, Next big trade. This was one of the last trades of the deadline. But Jimmy Butler coming to the Golden State Warriors, the team I hate the most, and Andrew Wiggins going to the Heat. And I think this was a 4-team deal. I'm not going to go into all the details. The meat of it is Jimmy Butler coming to the Warriors and the Heat getting Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and a first round pick. So
Well,
what are your
did they
thoughts
also
on the
get
Warriors?
Schroeder? They got Schroeder, but Schroeder got
Yeah, but
flipped.
Schroeder got like bounced around to Detroit, or
Schroeder
like
went to
maybe
four
now he's
teams.
on Detroit, but he went. You know,
I don't even know
it's
where he
too
ended up, dude.
it's too complicated. I feel like he ended up in Detroit, but he originally went to like the Raptors to the Blazers to like the
The
Wizards
Heat.
to the I think the Pistons. I don't even know.
Oh,
Who even knows?
you gotta feel bad for
Um,
Dennis, but
yeah, Dennis is being tossed around right now. But yeah, what do you the Warriors? I think post the Luka trade, they were like, we got to do something big. There were rumors
Yeah.
saying that they're calling about every single All Star in the NBA.
Yeah.
They were trying to make a trade with everybody. They're trying to make a trade with KD.
LeBron.
Kate, LeBron, KD said no apparently to the
He did.
Warriors.
He did. He did.
Um,
And I think a big reason was he didn't want to play with Draymond Green again.
yeah, and also it's like, I mean, if I'm KD, right, he's nearing the end of his career. Do I want my only rings to come from Golden State? Like if you just want to win, I think he should have gone. Honestly, go play with Steph.
Yeah.
But then it would be like, well, you're only good because you were with Steph Curry. You know what I mean? So I think he's still got a decent team in Phoenix.
Yeah.
But that's beside the point. What do you think about Jimmy Butler? That's the All-Star the Warriors ended up getting. Jimmy Butler, a lot of drama this
Well,
season with the Miami
not
Heat.
only did the Warriors trade for Jimmy, but they immediately extended him for 2 years, $121 million.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
lot of money.
yeah, I mean that's expensive. That's expensive. I mean, Jimmy Butler's a game changer. That's the one word that I use to describe him. Obviously, he's 35. He's getting older. You know, he has. He comes with his issues. We had the whole drama with the Heat this year that we dealt with. And that's not the first time he's had drama with the team. But I think Golden State's gonna be a good fit for him. And like, dude just knows how to win. So you're at the point. The Warriors at the point of their dynasty where they're trying to get as much as they can out of Steph before he retires. And even if you regress in a couple of years afterwards and you got to rebuild a little bit, that's not the end of the world. You've already done what you need to do, but you need to be able to try to win at the end of the day with Steph, like, as long as he's there. And I think Jimmy Butler does that. Jimmy Butler, at least, I think the issue for the Warriors with getting Jimmy Butler is not necessarily winning in the playoffs, but it's getting into the playoffs. Because we don't really know, the Warriors are one of those fringe teams that are, stuck in the play-in area. But I think it's a good pickup for them. I think it makes sense, especially with the timeline. I think a lot of people are hating on it, but I think the timeline makes sense. And Jimmy Butler just, he's just a solid player. He does what he does, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think Jimmy's been great for so many years. He took two Heat teams to the NBA Finals. Came up short against the Lakers in the bubble, as well as the Denver Nuggets in the NBA Finals a few years ago. But everybody says playoff Jimmy. Like when playoffs come around, Jimmy Butler's a different beast. But that's the issue at hand right now is the Warriors got to make it to the playoffs first. And, maybe it was just because in between some of his suspensions with the Miami Heat, he would come back and play a few games. And maybe it was just because he didn't want to be there, but he did not look good playing. The reporters would ask him, like, it doesn't look like you're giving full effort. And he, I think, said, yes, I am. I just, I would never not give my full effort, but it really looked like he wasn't trying or he just sucked at basketball. So it was one of the two. And so you're hoping that he wasn't trying and kind of like telling Miami, yo, like, get me out of here. And so if the Warriors can get Jimmy Butler as he has been in the past, then I think it's a huge addition for them, and it takes some pressure off of Steph, who's really their entire offense right now. Like,
Yeah.
they have good in this trade. Like, I will say, they didn't have to give up the young players that they've been trying,
Right.
that people thought they would have to. Like, they didn't have to give up Kuminga. They didn't have to give up Moses Moody. Right? They didn't have to give up those players. They only gave up one first-round pick, so they didn't really sacrifice their future with this trade. But you see the Warriors play. Steph is running around the entire court, and
Yeah.
that movement is what's generating looks for himself as well as the other players. But now you add a piece like Jimmy Butler who can make his own offense. It'll be interesting to see how the two combine. But I think it should take some pressure off of Steph, and as well as give Steph easier looks, because you got to think he's an NBA player. He's put in the work for a crazy amount of time, but a lot of running around. It's got to be exhausting, and the game that you were talking about earlier with LeBron. You watched LeBron play the Warriors. LeBron had 42 points and 17 rebounds in that game. Steph, I think, had like 37 points, but he shot like 13 for 35 from the field and 6 for 20 from three.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, he ended up with 35 points. They were close in the game, but you add a player like Jimmy Butler, things could work out for the Warriors. Just they got to put it all together. But what do you think about the Heat side of things with Andrew Wiggins?
You know what? The Heat just needed to trade him. The Heat needed to trade him. There was too much kind of drama going on, and I think you got a similar player in Jimmy Butler. I think Wiggins is very comparable to Jimmy Butler, younger. Sometimes I think Wiggins has a. It's not like he's different from Jimmy Butler in a sense where I feel like he tends to disappear at times when he's
Not as
playing.
consistent.
But I mean, you have the pieces in Miami. You have Bam Adebayo, who's a top 5 center in the league. You have Tyler Hero, who's an All Star this year. Like you have, you got Hawkes. You got really good pieces. You got really good young pieces. And the Heat are one of the best teams at developing young players. I think a lot of these, players on the Heat, start from the G League or, were kind of just, diamonds in the rough, and they're kind of able to develop them into serviceable NBA players. So I think you're not worried as like a Heat fan, like, oh, where's our next players going to become? Because you're just constantly developing them. You're constantly developing them. And I think Wiggins fits really well with this team. And you really, give the keys to Bam and Tyler Hero. I really think you do. They're young. They're still young. I don't think either of them are 30 yet. I mean, Tyler Hero is still like 24, 25. Bam's a bit older, still young players. Wiggins fits in with that timeline. I think it makes total sense for the Heat. It doesn't matter that you didn't get, it's okay that you didn't get all the young players from the Warriors. You got Wiggins and you got a pick. You did got a pick, right?
They got a first, and I believe they got a second round pick as well, but maybe not.
I think it just makes a lot of sense. I think Wiggins fits with this team, so good
Yeah,
move by
I
the
think
Heat.
The Heat, they have Terry Rozier, they have Tyler Hero, they have Jaime Jaquez Jr., and I think he's listed as a shooting guard on their roster, but like he can play shooting guard.
Yeah, I think they got a lot of those players that can play like the 2 through the 4. Like I think Nikola Jovic too is very similar in that sense. Like you have a lot of like positionalist players on that team, but
you take out Jimmy, right? He's like your big. I mean, he's I think a shooting guard, small forward, but you take out him and you put in Andrew Wiggins, who's I think a little bit taller, but still, as big or a little, maybe, but still strong.
I'd probably say he's a bit more athletic.
I mean, he could jump out the gym when he wants to. So
I mean, and he's only 29 as well.
7 years younger, 6 years younger than Jimmy. I think it is a good trade for the Heat. I think the other trade partner for the Heat was the Suns, right? Because the rumors were the Suns wanted Jimmy Butler, but Bradley Beal wouldn't waive his no trade clause.
Yeah.
And ultimately, at this point, like Andrew Wiggins is probably a better fit compared to Bradley Beal. I know Bradley Beal's good, but like I don't think he even starts anymore on the Suns. It hasn't worked there. I think Bradley Beal really excelled in Washington when nobody else was around him. He's averaging 30 points a game, but they weren't winning games. And so maybe he's just not a winning player. But they get Andrew Wiggins, good fit, and I think it's a good deal for both sides. You give the Warriors a star, in Jimmy Butler, and the Heat still get a solid return for a player who wouldn't even play there the rest of the year. Like he wasn't going to play any games. So for you to get Andrew Wiggins a first round pick, Kyle Anderson, like, you can't complain.
Yep. Well, those are some of like the more major trades. I think we're going to talk about some more minor trades, but there's still a decent amount of activity, and some other teams did make some good moves, including the Bucks getting Kuzma.
Yeah, the Bucks got Kyle Kuzma. The Wizards got Chris Middleton. And the Wizards ended up also acquiring a player in Marcus Smart from the Grizzlies. So the Wizards, a terrible team this year.
Horrible.
They got Jordan Poole. they got a lot of young people.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole, Bilal Coulibaly, like
They got Bub
so,
Carrington. Yeah.
yep, Bub Carrington, Alex Sarr. Like they got a
Alex
lot of
Barr.
young players. Now they have Chris Middleton, veteran, Marcus Smart, veteran, and they also have Malcolm Brogdon on their bench, a veteran. And so a lot of rumors were going around of whether or not they're going to buy out some of these players, but it looks like they're going to keep them and kind of pair the veterans with the new people and try and
Yeah,
develop them.
I agree.
But and then the Bucks get Kyle Kuzma. So
Yep.
I don't really know how to feel. I think Kyle Kuzma is solid, but like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it moves the needle compared to a player like Chris Middleton. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I feel like for the Bucks, I think it's an upgrade. Because I feel like Chris Middleton's regressing a bit. I don't think he's the same player that he used to be. I mean, he used to be an all-star. Like he was really good.
He was a big player in their finals run.
I mean, he was that second guy to Giannis, but I feel like he's definitely regressed since he's had some injury issues. I think Kuzma's still a solid player. I think Kuzma, it gets a lot of hate in the league, obviously. But as you can see from his time with Washington, him and Poole playing together, he's not a franchise player. He's not a franchise. He's a starter. He's a starter in the league, but he's not a star. And I think he will. I think with Giannis and Damian Lillard, having the ball majority of the time, I think he's really going to benefit from that. And I think there's going to be less pressure on him. So I think it's going to be like a better setting for him. I think back when he was, a young player starting for the Lakers and, in the bubble run when they had LeBron and AD and all those pieces, Kuzma did well because Kuzma didn't have the pressure on him, but I think when he had the keys, I just don't think he's that guy. So I think it helps his career going to the Bucks because I think he's going to benefit from having less pressure on him.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was actually thinking about that. I was going to bring up the same point that Kyle Kuzma went to the Wizards to be like their star player.
Yeah.
And alongside Jordan Poole, but you're right, he's not a star. He's very good, and I think he'd be very good as a role player for the Bucks. He doesn't have to worry about making every single play. The plays will come to him, and as long as he's hitting his threes, making good cuts for dunks, he's younger than Chris Middleton. And the thing about the bubble, what's funny is last night I was on YouTube I was looking up something. I was looking up like an America's Got Talent audition because I was on Instagram doom scrolling, saw America's Got Talent. I wanted to see the full thing, so I watched it. Right, so I went in and I look at. Before searching that up, I saw it said 1 hour of the Lakers 2019-2020 season, their finals run, and it's like 11:30 last night, and I'm like, no, I shouldn't watch an hour worth of this. I did. I watched the entire hour. And let me tell you, dude, I mean, like, a little bit of a sidetrack. That team, their bubble team, like, people give them crap for not winning or for winning in the bubble.
Yeah.
Dude, their team was nuts. Like, they were perfectly in sync. They all loved each other. They were great friends on and off the court. And that team was nuts. And Kyle Kuzma was great.
Yeah.
He was a 3-point shooter on the kickouts. And he got lobs. He got back cuts for dunks. Like, you put him in that role position, I think, I was really impressed. Like, I kind of, was reminiscing last night about the last Lakers final run and was, watching that video. And Kyle Kuzma looked terrific. So, that's 5 years ago. But I think he's still capable of being the same player. And if the Bucks get him like that, it'll be really good for the Bucks. A solid role player who can hit threes and make cuts and get easy buckets. With all the attention on Dame and Giannis,
Yep.
things should open up for him.
100%. So yeah, that's I think I agree with you on that. I think it benefits Kuzma itself, and I think it is a good move for the Bucks. As much hate as Kuzma gets, I think it's no. I don't think people should be hating on players like that. So I think it's a good move.
Yeah. Three other deals. We'll kind of quick fire that went
Mhm.
through. The Cavs got DeAndre Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
The Raptors got Brandon Ingram, and the Clippers got Bogdan Bogdanovic.
Mm-hmm.
Out of those three, which one sticks out to you?
Oh, for sure, DeAndre Hunter's the Cavaliers. I think 100% that one stands out to me. The Cavaliers are the best team in the NBA right now, which is crazy. I mean, do they have a better record than the Thunder, or
If anything, they're like the same in terms
yeah?
of record.
I mean, the Cavaliers have been exceptional this year, and DeAndre Hunter just is that last piece. That's an upgrade. Because I think their fifth starter was either like Karis LeVert or Isaac Okoro. I think Karis LeVert ended up going to the Cavaliers in that, or back to the Hawks in that
To the Hawks.
trade.
The Hawks got Karis LeVert,
Mm-hmm.
Gorgeous Niang, 3 second rounds, and a pair of pick swaps.
Mm-hmm.
The Cavs got DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think DeAndre Hunter is, he's that 3-and-D guy. He's that 3-and-D guy. You have your two guards in Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, who are great at playmaking and shot creating and doing their thing from the guard level. And then you have your two bigs. You had Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, who are great defensively. Work in sync together because they're both centers, but they work terrific together because they both understand their roles and how to play with each other. And DeAndre Hunter's just your do-it-all 3-and-D guy. I think that makes their starting lineup complete. And the Cavaliers are scary, man. They're a good team, and they're young, man. They're young and they're scary.
And
So
they got good players.
I think that's a.
Otherwise, they have Max Strus,
Mm-hmm.
who's been really good for the Cavs since coming to them from the Heat. They have Ty Jerome, who
Yeah.
I think he played at Virginia, right?
Yeah.
Like he's come on this year. And they also have a few other Sam Merrill, like he's a
Yes.
3-point shooter.
I got to tell you about
He's
Sam
playing
Merrill.
really good.
I watched Sam Merrill in high school, or not in high. I watched Sam Merrill in college. He played for Utah State, and
Oh
my
yeah,
freshman year, SCSU played Utah State at home for Kawhi Leonard's jersey retirement game.
who
And
won?
SCSU, they were still undefeated. That's when they went on their undefeated season for a little while.
Before COVID,
Kawhi's speech was a bit lackluster, but that's Kawhi for you.
as one can imagine.
But it was probably one of the greatest sporting events I've ever been to. But Sam Merrill at Utah State was that guy with their big was Neemias Queta. I don't know if you've heard of him for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit of a dynamic duo. But to see, he's an older guy because he's hasn't been in the league that long. But I think he went on a mission and got drafted really late, really old. So older player, but solid piece. So,
But he's been a solid 3-point shooter for
Yeah.
them. And DeAndre Hunter, how many points per game? And I feel like he came off the bench for the Hawks just because they had so many guys.
dude, was he at like 13?
He's averaging 19 points a game.
He's averaging 19 points a game.
19
Whoa.
points a game this season, and I'm pretty sure him and Bogdan both came off the bench for the Hawks because they had like Trey, then they have, is it Dyson Daniels? They got Clint Capella.
Yeah.
They got Jalen Johnson, and then there was probably someone else in the starting lineup. But 19 points a game for DeAndre Hunter. Cavs get a huge addition to the roster.
Yeah. Dude, you know what we should have done? We should have I should have screen shared the basketball reference page while talking about the player.
It's okay.
But he said he's only started 4 games this season, so
only 4 games started, and he's got 19 points a game, which so for the Cavs, if you throw him into the starting lineup, or if you want to bring him off as your 6th man, I think you can't go wrong.
Yeah, because I think you could start Strus. You could start Strus at the 3, but I think it's similar to Dorian Finney-Smith, where I think Hunter is very similar to Dorian Finney-Smith, where he's like that 5th starter that kind of completes the team. while like Strus can be more like Rui, where it's like, you're more of like the scoring option off the bench. Because I think Strus is just more of like a natural scorer, I'd say. I don't know, but DeAndre Hunter's got 19 points a game. I don't know. So you
Yeah,
can't go wrong. But I think those 5 players, you got to try to find a way to keep that core, because I don't see any reason why you should be changing that. So
yeah, definitely. I think the other two trades that I mentioned, Bogdan Bogdanovic, the Clippers. I think it's a solid addition for the Clippers. Bogey, very solid player, just 3-point shooter, scorer. And then Brandon Ingram to the Raptors. It's a big trade in the sense that Brandon Ingram has been an All-Star, but the
mhm.
Raptors suck this year, so like it's not really doing anything for them
Right.
this year. But
But they
long
got
term, hopefully,
yeah. But
they have good players.
Brandon Ingram's still a younger player. Like he's still like
Yeah,
what, 27 probably 20, 27, 28 maybe.
probably around there.
Um, and I think the Raptors needed another piece around Scotty Barnes, because I think Scotty Barnes is a really good player. But yeah, I just don't think he could do it by himself. And they still got some young players like RJ Barrett and
They got Grady
Grady
Dick.
Dick.
They got
Um,
Emmanuel or Isaiah quickly or Emmanuel.
no,
Yeah,
Emmanuel quickly.
Emmanuel.
I forget who their big is. They might have to get a young big,
It's
but they might have Pearl.
Pirtle.
Jakob.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the
So
Raptors aren't contending, so if Brandon Ingram's willing to commit to the Raptors, I think they could get something. They could build something. They just need a young center, and they can develop. They can develop. They got the pieces, but they also have pieces they want to trade for another player. So because they didn't really give up too much for Brandon Ingram, fortunately, because Brandon Ingram's a stud. He's a natural scorer and definitely going to take the load off of Scotty Barnes.
yeah, the Pelicans in return got Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, 1 first-round pick and 1 second-round pick from the Raptors.
Yeah.
So nothing crazy.
That's not much of a return, honestly, for the potential
Uh,
that Brandon Ingram can be. When Brandon Ingram's playing his best basketball, he's potentially all
he's been
star
an
level.
all-star.
When he's playing his best basketball. So hopefully he can find that in Toronto, because that could be a fun team with a lot of young pieces.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be going to a Warriors Raptors game in March, so I'll
Mhm.
bring back a fresh scouting report. It's
Hell
a
yeah,
month out, but
yeah.
I'll
And
bring
I
it back.
think and I think for the Pelican side, I think they were talking about trading Ingram for a little while, and I think it makes
Yeah,
sense because I think
I
one
think
player
he might be
that's
up for an extension
One
or
one
something.
player that's emerged this year and has been on my fantasy basketball team, super underrated, is Trey Murphy. Trey
Very good
Murphy's
player.
been an absolute stud this year, and he can be that. He's that three. He's that three. You don't need Brandon Ingram anymore. You got Herb Jones, which I think is an NBA starter. He's insane defensively. Um, I know Dejounte Murray's out, but when he comes back, I mean, he's gonna be out for a little while. He tore his Achilles, so you need some time for that. And Zion. You got to build around Zion. So got some more developing to do, and I think Brandon Ingram going gives Zion more opportunities. Hopefully,
Yeah. Um, and then like I said, Bogdan Bogdanovic, the Clippers, and in the buyout market already, it's been active. The Clippers got, drumroll please, Ben Simmons
I ain't drum
from
rolling
the
for that crap. I
from the
ain't,
Nets,
bro.
a player with the biggest fall off in recent history. In my, just that comes to mind. Ben Simmons coming to the Clippers. I don't know what his role will look like, if anything,
Ball boy.
but
He needs
worth a mini mention.
the problem with Ben Simmons is he just refuses to develop a jump shot. He refuses to
Yeah,
develop a jump shot, and that's if you actually just like spend some time. You have everything else. You have everything else. You had everything else at least. If you actually put some work in, I think if you actually put some work in, you can actually be serviceable. But the fact that he refuses to do that just boggles my mind. Like shooting is one of the most like for me and you as people that played basketball growing up. I love to shoot. I know you love to
yeah,
shoot too. Like that's one of the best parts of playing basketball is being able to shoot and making shots. Like how do you like not practice that? And when you're in the NBA, it just boggles my mind.
yeah. There'd be videos that come out during the summertime where he's at, the Lifetime in New York, with those NBA runs that you always see clips of, and he's shooting threes, like he's making threes in these pickup games. But then when it comes to the NBA, I feel like it's just a confidence thing. Like for me, right, it's super easy, during in high school, during college, in practice, right? Super easy to make shots.
Yeah.
Like you just don't think about it as much because there's no consequences of you missing. It's practice. You're not losing a game. You're not the fans aren't booing you. For us in high school, the student sections aren't going nuts, like throwing slurs or whatever at you, making fun of you. But then when you get to the game, there's all that pressure, and a lot of players, you get the butterflies at first or whatever. And I think Ben Simmons just can't handle that pressure and doesn't have the confidence to be good when it matters.
Yeah.
And it's a shame to see because coming out of high school, coming out of college, like this guy was legit. He was legit with the Sixers. But then
I always think about that. The video has been resurfacing of Colin Cowherd. He was on his show and he's like they're like the captions like one of the worst takes in NBA history, and he goes, "LeBron James, step aside. Ben Simmons is here." And I'm just like, oh my gosh, dude.
And it still doesn't hold true at 40 years old for LeBron.
Yeah, don't even step aside. Don't even step aside.
LeBron could be 65 years old, come back for 1 year, put Ben Simmons in as of right now, and people would probably prefer to have LeBron on their team.
Oh, 100%.
So
100%.
That rounds out the NBA trade deadline special episodes, nearing an hour right now. Like I said, 27 trades happened in the NBA season. And after the Luka Doncic AD trade, 20 trades happened within the span of 5 days. And a lot of big ones, as we've gone over. A lot of star players being moved around, a lot of big names, important people being moved around. And it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season shakes out.
Yep. Exciting.
But now the less exciting, but stay, still listening. It's Super Bowl weekend. Super Bowl weekend. The Chiefs.
Super Bowl is tomorrow.
In New Orleans. The Chiefs, I think, last time I checked, were 1.5 point favorites to win the Super Bowl. They got all the Swifties on their side. They got something going on, some type of weird voodoo magic going on in the Chiefs' kingdom. But yeah, Super Bowl weekend, two teams that have been great all season long. And I just hope, this was a game that was played 2 years ago when the Chiefs beat the Eagles 38-35. And now Jalen Hurts gets his time to, seek redemption. What are your thoughts? Do you think he'll get it? Do you think the Chiefs, you can't bet against the Chiefs? Do you think Patrick Mahomes just pulls off another and wins his fourth Super Bowl out of 6 tries or 5 tries? I think, he'd be 4 for 5, and he's been in the Super Bowl the last 5 out of 6 years.
This matchup is the lesser of two evils. Everyone hates both these teams, and it is so aggravating that both of these teams are in the Super Bowl. So, as much as we do not like these teams, I do got to try to give a true analysis. I mean, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. That's all I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to start with. Regardless of I think a lot of they even though they had the best record in the AFC this year, they got a lot of criticism that it was fake. But guess what? That doesn't matter. They won and they made it to the Super Bowl. They did what they needed to do. So regardless of how they did in the regular season or if they should have won that game, or doesn't matter. The Bills were that team that needed to dethrone the Chiefs, and they just couldn't do it. That was probably the best chance that the AFC had of having someone else rather than the Chiefs go. So you can't crap on the Chiefs. They put themselves in the position and they've been winning games. But I want to talk about the Eagles as well. The Eagles have been exceptional. They've been, I think they obviously were one of the best teams in the NFL. They went a little bit under the radar because of the hype of the Lions. I think the Lions generated a lot of hype this year, and a lot of people had a lot of focus on them. You know, they're a likable team, so a lot of people wanted them to go to the Super Bowl. But the Philadelphia had a great season, and congrats to Saquon Barkley, Offensive Player of the Year. I personally, the only reason I want to see the Eagles win is because of Saquon. I want to see
Yep.
I think Saquon's had a great season. I want to see him win, and that's my prediction. I think the Eagles are going to win. I think the Eagles are on a little bit of better form than the Chiefs. I think they've been a bit better, and I think they've performed better throughout the playoffs than the Chiefs had. And I'm thinking that's going to happen in the Super Bowl, and I hope I'm right, because as much as the Eagles are annoying and their fans can be so obnoxious and evil, I just can't bear to see the Chiefs win again. Sorry, Vaughn, but it has to be said. So going with the Eagles.
Yeah, I think the Eagles present a very tough challenge for the Chiefs. They're great offensively, right? Their receiving core of Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, fantastic. You got your rushing threat in both Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. Saquon Barkley's big playability has been incredible this year.
Mm-hmm.
He's the Offensive Player of the Year for a reason.
He's been amazing.
He won the award over Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase was incredible. But
or
obviously,
Lamar.
right. Like
Josh Allen won MVP. Lamar got no awards.
Yeah. So, they have their offensive line is great. Their defense has been phenomenal this year. They've been terrific. I think the biggest thing I don't know who's going to win. I really want the Eagles to win. And like you said, literally only because of Saquon Barkley.
Lesser of two evils. Lesser of two evils.
I think Saquon Barkley is a great guy. He was on my fantasy team. He's so fun to watch. And
he's been stuck with the Giants for the past 5-6 years.
Like you want it for him. The only thing I'm worried about is, aside from the Chiefs are going to chief, is the Chiefs' ability to game plan against their opponents. Like I said, the Eagles have this big playability in Saquon Barkley. What happens if the Chiefs take that away? Like, do I trust Jalen Hurts to then carry the team with his arm? I don't know. I think he can make several solid plays, but for the full course of a game, Saquon's going to get his work. He's going to get some yards, but if they take away those big plays, because it happened so many times in last week's game against the Commanders and so many times this season, and Saquon opens for a 60, 70-yard touchdown, it takes so much pressure off of Jalen. Like, that's it. That's the drive. It's over. Mm-hmm. Here's a touchdown, 7 points, done. And so if they're able to take that away, I'm just scared that Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator of the Chiefs, is going to dial up the blitz at the right time, like he did against the Bills, and get Jalen Hurts for a sack, and just the negative plays when Saquon isn't able to break away for those huge positive ones. And that's why the Chiefs are great. That's why they're able to win these games. They're so good at taking advantage of every little, small game within the big one.
Yeah.
On offensive and defense, and so I think it should be a good game, and I hope the Eagles pull it out. It's just the Eagles got to be able to out game plan the game plan masters in the Chiefs, and so
yeah. I think this Eagles offense, Saquon is the biggest X factor, obviously. But like you said, if Saquon can't get it going, it forces Jalen Hurts to have the ball in his hand more, and Jalen Hurts has to show up. I think regardless if Saquon does this thing or not, Jalen Hurts has to show up. If he doesn't show up, it's over. But fortunately, Jalen Hurts has been showing up this year. He has been showing up, and he has been showing up in the games that mattered. Obviously, Saquon has taken a ton of the load off. He's carried entire drives, but Jalen Hurts, this is gonna be his toughest game yet. This is gonna be the toughest game yet, and this is a huge legacy game for him. To be able to consider himself one of the upper echelon quarterbacks in the league if he can, help the Eagles win.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it's just going to come down to Saquon doing his thing and Jalen Hurts, picking up where Saquon's slacking off. And then the defense of the Eagles, I'll just say a public freaking service announcement. Patrick Mahomes always, for whatever reason, is never credited or like really, like last week's game or 2 weeks ago when the Bills played the Chiefs. Everybody's like, oh, you got to contain Josh Allen on the run. Or if they play Lamar, we got to contain Lamar on the run. Like, we can't let these guys run because they're so good at it, right? But they never pay attention to Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes gets the most important runs of the game, and they always break off for like 15, 20 yards.
You know what's the funniest part about? That? He always looks slower than the rest of them.
Yeah. But he's doing it in the big moments. It's like Lamar could have a 100-yard game on the ground, but for Patrick Mahomes, he's doing it on 3rd and 15. He's doing it with 2 minutes left in the game, 3rd and 10, 4th and 5. Like, they're doing these plays, and like, dude, just get a QB spy, like, just deck him. I don't know, just freaking tackle him. Like, it's coming. It's just so it's heartbreaking for a team's defense in those moments to give up a run to the QB for like 15, 20 yards. You give up a pass, it's like hopefully your cornerbacks are in a good position, right? But it's like it seems to be always just so free for Patrick. Even when he goes to the sideline, people don't want to hit him. They're too scared of the penalty. And then he pulls back and he goes for another 10. It's like, dude, freaking just stop it. Just, you got it. Like, they got to know. I mean, Patrick Mahomes showed that ability against the Bills. So, it's already been but he showed that ability with a freaking near broken foot against the Eagles in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. The Eagles have the film. They have the freaking film. Pay attention. Pay attention. And I think if you contain those spurts, you're not going to stop out all of them. Because at the end of the day, if a play breaks down, he could go out. But, you just got to, please just, Eagles, be aware. You're not going to see this. You're not going to hear it. Whatever. But I'm just putting it out there that they have to be aware of what Patrick Mahomes can do on the ground. And just please stop it. Please just win the Super Bowl. Come on. Has to happen. That's all I'll say about that.
Well, yep. Super Bowl's always a fun time of the year. But it's just unfortunate that these are the teams, but you have to live with it. You can't complain. That's, the football gods, made it this way. So you just have to accept it. And just have
it is
because
what it is.
It is the last football game of the entire year. And I felt like, I would say football in general, I think it was a great season of football. I really enjoyed watching it this year. A
lot of great players.
Fantasy kind of sucked for me, but besides that, it was really fun to watch. And I think it was, obviously this was our first year. This is our first year doing this podcast. So being actually able to talk about it and, think about it on a different level made the season really enjoyable. So good season of football, and tomorrow it wraps up.
And so for those of you watching before then, I hope you have an enjoyable Sunday wherever you're watching the Super Bowl. Vaughn, if you see this, I hope your Chiefs lose, so I guess your Sunday wouldn't be as enjoyable. But regardless, have a good Sunday. I think it should be a good game. If it's anything like the last one.
His previous 2 Super Bowl Sundays were fine, so he can have a bad one.
He can have a bad one every once in a while.
No.
But that wraps up episode 16 of the Just Honin podcast. Trade deadline, Super Bowl, big week, big Sunday tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Your host, Justin Mazzola, and
Adam Honer.
Peace.